On the night of August 7, 2011, 23-year-old Dalene Carlson walked out into the warm Stockton evening. She wasn't expecting anything unusual, just another night out with people she knew. Inside Finnegan's Bar and Grill, you could hear laughter, glasses clinking, people talking. Just a regular night. Dalene chatted about normal stuff, her plans, places she wanted to visit, the life she was building. Nothing felt off. Nothing suggested these would be her last hours. Before her name showed up in news reports and courtrooms, Dalene Carlson was a daughter, a friend, a young woman trying to figure things out, standing at the beginning of something new, hopeful about where life might take her. Dalene Janice Carlson, her friends called her Day Day, was born February 22, 1988, in French Camp, California. Her parents were Narration Flagg and David Carlson. She grew up mostly in Sandpoint, Idaho, living with her older sister, Narja Goonan. Sandpoint is one of those small towns where everyone knows everyone. Quiet, safe, the kind of place where you can walk your dog without worrying. Dalene went to Sandpoint High School, graduated in 2006, and worked at a few different restaurants in town. People who knew her said she was trusting, open. She genuinely cared about the people around her. But by the summer of 2011, Dalene wanted more. She wanted independence, her own life. Maybe go to college and study child development. She wanted California. On July 19, 2011, Dalene packed up and moved to Stockton to live with her aunt, Margaret Baker. It had only been 3 weeks. 3 weeks in her new life, working toward enrolling at San Joaquin Delta College that fall. In those weeks before she disappeared, Dalene was settling in. She hung out with friends, went out, talked about her future. She thought she had plenty of time ahead of her. Nothing about how she was acting suggested she was scared, dealing with conflict, or wanted to run away. No signs of distress, no family fights, no worrying messages. Dalene wasn't running from anything. She was just living. On the night of August 7, 2011, around 10 p.m., Dalene left her aunt's house to meet a friend at Finnegan's Bar on Pacific Avenue. It was a local spot. Nothing fancy, just somewhere to relax, have drinks, maybe play pool. Dalene and her friend got there together, but they split up once they went inside. She was with friends, laughing, talking, doing what thousands of other young people do on a Saturday night. People who saw her later told investigators she seemed normal, relaxed, in good spirits. Dalene had recently started dating a guy named Jacob Evangelisti, but by early August, things had cooled off. Her attention had shifted to someone else, a man named Jason Ross Gilly. Gilly was 25, lived with his grandmother and mother in Stockton, and had a young son. From what investigators could tell, Dalene had only known him about a week. Jacob Evangelisti was at Finnegan's that night too. He talked with Dalene, his ex, but as the night went on, her focus was somewhere else. When it got late and friends started leaving, Dalene told people she was heading home. Just a casual goodbye. The kind people say all the time without thinking twice. Nobody walked her out. Nobody followed. Nobody thought they had to. But Dalene didn't leave alone. Surveillance footage later showed Dalene and Gilly together after they left the bar. They stopped at a nearby grocery store, just a quick errand captured on camera under fluorescent lights. That footage became one of the last confirmed sightings of Dalene Carlson alive. Sometime after leaving that store, Dalene disappeared. She never made it home, never called, never sent a text explaining why she was running late. By the next morning, people knew something was wrong. When friends and family tried reaching her, there was nothing. Hours went by, then more. Worry turned to panic, because this wasn't like Dalene. She didn't just vanish without telling someone. She didn't go silent, and she didn't walk away from her life. A missing person report was filed, and Stockton police started piecing together where Dalene had been. Investigators retraced her steps, talked to people from the bar, went through surveillance footage frame by frame. And one detail kept coming up. The last person known to be with Dalene was Jason Gilly. Jason Gilly was arrested on August 21, 2011, 2 weeks after Dalene vanished. Investigators questioned him hard. Over multiple interrogations, his story kept changing. When police first talked to him, what he said didn't add up. Gilly admitted he'd seen Dalene earlier that night, but at first denied being with her later. He said he dropped her off. Then, when detectives showed him the surveillance footage, his story shifted. Details changed. Timelines got fuzzy. His statements contradicted each other. To investigators, those inconsistencies mattered. But there wasn't enough to hold him, so he was released. As days turned into weeks, the case got darker. Search efforts expanded. Flyers went up everywhere. Dalene's face appeared on posters, social media, news reports, a smiling photo next to one devastating word, missing. Behind the scenes, detectives kept building a timeline using surveillance footage, witness statements, and phone records. Everything pointed to the same thing. Dalene had been with Gilly during those final, unaccounted-for hours. Then, almost 2 months later, everything changed. In a cornfield near Escalon, California, a farm worker found something that would end the search and start a murder investigation. Human remains, hidden among the crops. Dental records confirmed what everyone feared. It was Dalene Carlson. When the remains were found, forensic teams moved in. Dr. Bennett Omalu, the medical examiner for San Joaquin County, ordered the ground beneath the body excavated 18 inches deep. The soil was secured in a body bag and x-rayed. What they found was devastating. 3 gunshot wounds, 1 to the back of the head, 2 to her torso. The pathologist later testified that Dalene had been shot execution style. 5.22 caliber shell casings were found near her remains. Days later, her blue jeans were discovered 6 miles away. Dalene's body had been there for over 2 months, exposed to everything. Decomposed. But the evidence was still there, buried in the dirt, waiting to tell the truth. Jason Gilly owned a .22 caliber handgun. Investigators ran ballistics tests, comparing the shell casings from the scene to test-fired rounds from Gilly's gun. They matched. Cell phone records placed Gilly in the area where Dalene's body was found. Text logs showed that in the 3 days before she disappeared, Gilly had sent Dalene 201 text messages. 201. And yet when questioned, he claimed he barely knew her. On August 30th, 2011, Jason Gilly was arrested for the second time. This time, he was charged with murder. The trial started in September 2013, more than 2 years after Dalene's death. Jason Ross Gilly was formally charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping. He pleaded not guilty. In the courtroom, prosecutors started where everything began, the final night of Dalene's life. Jurors heard the full timeline of August 7, 2011, starting at Finnegan's Bar and Grill. Witnesses testified that Dalene seemed calm that night, social, in good spirits. Then came the surveillance footage, grainy but critical. Jurors watched Dalene on screen, alive, walking next to Gilly at the grocery store. Prosecutors made it clear this was the last confirmed time anyone saw Dalene Carlson. From there, the state walked through what happened next and the silence that followed. Detectives testified about Gilly's early interviews, explaining how his story kept shifting as they confronted him with evidence. At first, he downplayed his contact with Dalene. Later, he admitted being with her, but gave explanations that didn't match the surveillance footage, phone records, or witness statements. To prosecutors, these weren't just mistakes, they were lies. The strongest evidence came from forensics. Ballistics experts testified that the shell casings found near Dalene's remains matched a firearm tied to Gilly. The jury also heard about the gunshot wounds, including the fatal shot to the back of her head. Evidence that ruled out any accident or self-defense claim. Medical examiners explained the condition of the remains, confirming Dalene had been dead for weeks before being found in that cornfield. The location itself became part of the case. Remote, isolated, deliberately chosen, far from where Dalene was last seen alive. The defense pushed back. Gilly's attorneys questioned the circumstantial evidence and suggested other ways to interpret the timeline. They argued the prosecution couldn't definitively prove when Dalene was killed, or that Gilly pulled the trigger. They pointed out gaps, uncertainties, the lack of eyewitnesses to the actual crime. But the prosecution kept coming back to the same thing. Dalene Carlson was last seen alive with Jason Gilly. His statements didn't match the evidence, and forensic findings tied him to how she died. As the trial went on, the emotional weight became obvious, especially for Dalene's family, who sat through every painful detail. In victim impact statements, her loved ones talked about the life she never got to finish, the milestones she'd never reach, the silence her absence left behind. When closing arguments wrapped up, the jury left to deliberate. The wait was brutal. Then, in October 2013, after carefully reviewing everything, the jury came back. Jason Ross Gilly was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. No outburst, no drama. just the quiet finality of a verdict that would define this case forever. At sentencing, the judge handed down the maximum penalty, life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the court, it was justice. For Dalene's family, it was accountability, but not closure. Because even with a conviction, one truth remained. Dalene Carlson was gone. But at least Jason Gilley would spend the rest of his life in prison. Dalene Carlson's story reminds us that danger doesn't always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks completely ordinary. Sometimes it goes grocery shopping with you at 2 a.m. Sometimes it sends you 201 text messages in 3 days. And sometimes it takes everything from you in a single night. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in real investigations, shocking cases, and justice served, please subscribe, leave a comment, and join us as we explore more true crime stories.